Some games age like a fine wine. No, that's a stupid analogy here. It doesn't get better. Um, some games never lose their edge. No, that doesn't work here either. If you played it several times, you'll lose some enthusiasm after time. Well, what I'm trying to get at here is that the game that we're covering today, Rayforce, is a title that after 20 years is still exhilarating to play today. Yep, that's it. Review is over. Bye. Don't forget to subscribe. Of course I'm kidding. This is just the beginning, and although I pretty much gave my summarization of how I feel about this game right here in the beginning of this episode, there's still so much more to cover. Welcome to Download Review. My name is Pablo. This series is all about taking the arcade hits of yesteryear and reviewing the mobile conversions that have populated our favorite digital storefronts. As stated earlier, we're going to be taking a look at Rayforce, although depending on where you played it and if you played a port of it instead, you may know it by a different name. In Japan on home consoles, this was known as Layer Section. When Acclaim ported the title to North America and Europe, it was named Galactic Attack, and if you played it in the arcades in Europe, it was known as Gunlock. This is obviously confusing when we're talking about the same game, so for this review, we'll call it Rayforce. Additionally, that's what it's called in the Play Store, even though it goes by many names. Many names. Rayforce is a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up, which I'm sure was obvious when the gameplay began. And of course, for anyone who has been with me on this channel for a little bit, knows that I not only hold this genre in high regard, but even more so when it's a vertical type. Like some other titles that populate this arcade space, there's more than one level of enemies to take care of, just like in Xevious and Dragon Strike. However, where those games had 2 layers to handle, Rayforce has a whole nother world happening on the lower levels, and that sort of multi-layered approach is what gives this game some serious teeth. On top of that, the scaling sprite work on display here is beautiful, surprising, and frantic. Rayforce was introduced to arcades in 1994, around the beginning of the 32-bit console rising. Because of this, the game at the time wasn't the most striking kit around, but as we know, hardware fads fade out, and when we go back to particularly this era, what seemed cutting edge at the time is borderline hideous now. So in the long run, Rayforce keeping a sprite aesthetic has kept the look of the game stunning rather than too dated. Story of the game goes like, well, you know what, let's just let the Wikipedia page do the talking on this one. It goes like this. In the distant future, human governments across the planet Earth construct a massive supercomputer named Conhuman. The purpose of this computer is to govern the planet's environmental systems, verifying proper nutrients, and care is provided to ensure the culture of humans and animal alike. However, disaster strikes when, after a clone human's mind is linked with the system, Conhuman becomes sentient and insane. It begins to induce calamities across the planet, constructing corrupt clones of existing organisms, destroying its human masters and exterminating the nature it was intended to protect. Apparently, intending to replace everything with what Conhuman considers improved versions of themselves. After prolonged war, Conhuman has succeeded in exterminating 99.8% of humankind, with the remnants fleeing to space colonies. Meanwhile, Conhuman remakes the very interior of Earth. As a result, Earth as humanity knew it has utterly ceased to exist, transformed into a planet-sized mobile fortress that is in fact Conhuman's body. Conhuman intends to use a transformed Earth to seek out and destroy the colonies, erasing all remaining traces of old life in the universe and leaving only the new life that it personally created. Now, taking the full-scale offensive, mankind develops powerful ships. One of them, the RVA-818 X-Lay Starfighter, to fight the oppressive machine by destroying the now infected Earth entirely. So yeah, that's a fairly dark story. Of course, no one plays these games for the story. Sorry, developers. Thanks for making it so intricate, but most people will never know what it's like or what it's about while playing it. And even though the narrative is grim, you wouldn't be able to tell that with the upbeat music that plays throughout most of the game. Like most Taito arcade releases, the soundtrack was composed by Taito's in-house band, Zuntata, which I'm sure you've heard of. You've heard their music on many a Taito release. Some of the tracks do, however, evoke a feeling of dread, especially towards the end of the game. This game runs for about $6.99 on the Play Store, and I highly recommend it. Plus, this is a great place to start since the other two games and the Ray trilogy were released on Android this year. Bluetooth control is supported, yay, so that is a big plus in my book, but this game is completely playable with touch controls as well, since it relies on relative touch. If playing with touch controls, however, avoid playing the arcade mode as the ship is too sluggish to keep up with the speed of your finger, and instead play in remix mode. This mode was designed with touchscreens in mind, and the speed greatly increases. Now before I go, I want to point out that this app may be taxing on your device, thanks to all the sprites being pushed around. I tried it out on 3 devices. On my Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus, it runs great. On my Galaxy Tab S 10.5, it runs fairly well, and that's surprising considering the tablet is about 3 years old already. However, the last device that I ran the game didn't fare so well, a Motorola Moto Z2 Force, which is really surprising considering that this is a new flagship device that is running a Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 just like the S8. RAM is the same, as well as a GPU, an Adreno 540. Perhaps that is something that they'll iron out with a future update, as it sounds more like a software issue versus a hardware, considering both phones have basically the same internal specs. Anyways, this concludes this download review. I would like to thank you for tuning in, and if you'd like to see more content like this, please hit the subscribe button, and of course, please let me know how I'm doing or what you'd like to see different by utilizing comments and the like buttons. Thanks again, and I'll see you next episode when we cover Raystorm, the next title in the Ray trilogy.